With 84 days to the 2023 general election, a new political dimension is in the offing. And as Nigeria prepares for its seventh consecutive presidential election since return to democracy in 1999, there is the need for deep retrospection. Given the many challenges bedeviling the nation at this time, many consider the 2023 election as a defining one, the outcome of which will either pull the country back from the brinks or push it over the cliff, depending on who emerges the next president. Professor of Strategy and Development Anthony Kila has put together a book titled Epistles, addressing the many ills in the country and also providing solutions. Epistles, subtitled Reflections on Nigeria, touches on virtually all aspects of life and is split into 13 sections, including aviation, business and economics, education and health, religion and ethnicity, law and corruption, politics, security, social media, and youth. Well, he joins us now in the studio, Director, Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies, Professor Anthony Kila. Good morning, and congratulations on your book.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to be here.
Good morning.
Like I asked the first author that we spoke with, it seems it's a season of letters and all of it. I'm wondering...
Oh, I call you a man of letters.
I'm wondering what also informed your decision to put all of these reflections together at this time?
Well, I think, at this time, really, because I do think we need a kind of a guide, a kind of manual that provides solution. I think one of the peculiarity of this collection of essays is that, unlike in other areas where commentators and opinionists denounce and report issues, we've sort of gone out of our way to find solutions to each and every one of the items raised here. And the idea is to have a book, to have a collection that you can look at for every issue you're interested in, that bedevils the country. In a way, it's a sort of agenda for governance and policy, as you rightly noticed, from the area of aviation to banking to security.
To politics.
Look at everywhere, to politics, yes.
Yes.
Which is also risky because, which opinion is out there.
as my big uncle, Tola Deni, wrote in the book, your area of interest was more politics and economy, or even culture, and so on and so forth. But one of the problems I had with the book was that why you themed the writings, we don't get a sense. You have to try to get a sense of when it was written.
Oh, I see. The dates. The dates. Yeah, that's on purpose. That's on purpose because what you do, it's a particular style of writing, and I'm glad you bring it up. The idea is to review things that maybe are not so fresh, but to put history into context, to put chronological events and make them events of today. So you look at it and you think, this applies today, regardless of when it was written. To that sense, is aping the Bible.
That is the author's point of view. The reader may not see it that way because when I read some of it, I was saying, in what context did they write this? Because things actually changed. Some things seems already, dated and things like that. So sometimes you wanted to know, did they write it from the knowledge about things that had already happened after?
Oh, okay,
like that.
So you mean,
okay,
is he a seer? No. A reader, you're not a very attentive reader, Sam. A reader will put it into context. I'm here to
I didn't hear you.
No, you won't luckily for me.
I'm not an attentive reader.
That's what you said.
No. I get back at you on that one.
Who told you to repeat this to him? I almost got away with it.
There's what they call hermeneutics.
Yes.
The theory or the reader response.
Reader response to it, yes.
In which the writer writes.
Yes.
And the reader.
Yes.
appropriates
Exactly.
the writing.
Which is not you right.
It's no
the book is not yours,
it's no longer yours.
Exactly.
So
The
it
book
is
is
now
not
mine.
yours.
And if I get it, and it is not palatable
To you.
it is my duty to say, I will spit it out. I'm not saying I'm spitting it out.
Of course you won't. No, I go with hermeneutics. You know,
That's why
a reader is exactly.
Roland Barthes said,
Yes.
he said, the author is dead.
If the author is dead, the book is now ours. Right?
Yes.
No, which makes sense. I think so you're right. The author's voice says, let's do something that is not dateable. It's a book of ideas. It's not a chronicle of facts. So ideas, like the Epistles says, you know, what St. Paul has written centuries ago, it doesn't really need to date it to say, I'm writing you on this day. But if you read all the letters of
But
Paul,
we know when Paul was writing.
but that's the thing.
Yes,
so you should
we
know
know.
when Kila is writing today.
No, well, Paul's own is an epoch.
Yes.
We are living in that epoch, and it's a changing.
Well, it was changing
it's-
then
it's-
as well. From
No.
Thessalonians to
His
things.
own time was an epoch. So
Yes.
you already define it.
Oh, wait for
within
me
the
to die.
context.
Wait for me to die, then let it be an epoch then.
Eh?
Don't be in a hurry.
No, we don't want you to die yet. That's why we have to keep beating you until you die.
No,
Right.
no, it's all good. But yes, it is dateless. The idea is that two things are crucial here. Number one is that the book has been structured in a way that you can actually read anyone. You don't have to go from chapter to chapter, let alone sector by sector. They're all standalones. You can reference something and you'll find. And the other thing is that overall, and here comes the attention, overall, you not get the context of what is going on. Maybe we could do a part 2 to say a reply to what happened to all those things. It was an editorial choice to say, should we context it and say, after this is written, this is what happened? Or should we leave the reader to do a bit of work themselves, since they want to own the book, like Sam?
you talk about.
But there are some things that, so before you come up, there are some things that are still, around us and with us, some of the things you chronicled. Talking about fuel scarcity, for instance.
Exactly.
You see the long queues and all of it, and you spoke to certain issues. If I could just read a part of what you wrote. He said, if our authorities perceive the shortage of what takes us to work and allows our business to function as a major crisis, maybe we would have deployed every means possible to solve such crisis. And then you asked who really is to blame for allowing the crisis linger, the people or the authority. We still find ourselves having the fuel crisis.
And that is it. And that is where it becomes dateless because it's still happening. Maybe one day, maybe after 2023, when it comes in a government that fuel scarcity will be a thing of past. So you now say, oh, there was a time when there was fuel scarcity in Nigeria. When did it end? I think that's the idea. Who are we to blame? This is the kind of thing we'd say. Fuel scarcity is about market, storage, and logistics. Now, the fact that something so crucial to our lives, like a barber will not be able to do his salon if there's no fuel. You won't be able to get to work, many things. Something so crucial to our life that can happen again and again tells you there's something wrong with the way we manage governance. And I ask, is it people or government? Is it people letting government get away with it, or is it government so lax, so unlucky, or so incompetent? But for whatever reason, after the Suez Canal, Western government made a decision and said, never again shall we be short of oil. So that the policy has been consistent since then. Because what did they do? They identify what they need today, store 3, 5 times of that amount, and what they're buying from us is only to top up, not to use. Everything they're buying is reserve, is not to hold that way. Now, I think if those in power, if they feel the way we feel about...
You're trying to talk about when the Suez Canal was short.
Yes.
And they didn't allow people
to get access to it. And then that was a big problem in the Western countries.
Almost created the Third World War.
Exactly.
And France was humiliated.
Yes. and it affected the British policy because after that, the British policy now said, never again without America, never again against America. You see, there are moments that changes you. To say that, but you have to get it, you have to feel it. And I suspect that we as a people and the government, we're not feeling it. Because if we feel, honestly, I think as we're going to power, I want a candidate to say, give me 6 months in power, and after that, there will be no fuel scarcity in Nigeria again. You will ask why or how will you do it, and they will break it down for you. That is modern governance. That tells you what you're going to do, not vaguely. And in a way, is the spirit of the epistles as well. Rather than speak vaguely about issues or talk generally about affairs, this book contains essays that addresses individuals specifically.
Yeah.
To say, Mr. Governor, Mr.
Yes,
MD,
yes.
this I'm talking, let's not make it vague. Let's not make it general, because there's a tendency in our culture not to go direct on issue. Unless, of course, if you're a troublemaker like Sam, that goes direct where even it's not necessary to go to direct.
He came for you this morning.
Normal people,
My
out of
goodness.
courtesy, they go round.
Normal people, but you are going straight. You went straight to Shibaju. You went straight to Sanwo-Olu, although you were nice to him.
Yeah.
What's my governor? He's a good governor.
Yes, you went straight to Buhari.
Yes.
Even to the dead, like IMK Abiola.
No, you shouldn't let him go.
Shakespeare said, when the person dies, he has paid all his debts.
All his dead.
Yes.
Shakespeare was another epic.
Yes,
This is digital age, remember that? Yes, paid his debt. I've been reading so much of something, so I'm going direct to.
Now, I want you to know, when you write an epistle,
Yes.
there is a sense that you are directing to the person. Is there not also an implication of alienation from the readers? Okay, it's writing about Oshibajo is not my business.
Yes, that risk is there, but what do we do? So what happens is that in each epistles, you tend to preambulate it to say, this is addressed to you because we want to treat this issue. It is addressed to you because it is your table. So what we're hoping for is that the reader feels, yes, this is my voice, or no, I disagree with you. So in a way, in an epistle that is directed to an individual, you try to make, and I think it works very well because you've shown it, you try to make the reader an involved spectator who would judge the conversation
And watch out for the reaction.
and watch out for the reaction, and also say, maybe this writer is saying the right thing or the wrong thing, and this is where I stand. So it gives the reader a chance to butt in their way. And those who have had copies of the book will see that there are spaces to make notes on what they think and to check it. And so that is
One of the
I can see Sam is a real champion of readers.
One of the great columnists in the United States, Russell Baker, when he was asked about columning, he said, we columnists, what we do is to recycle ourselves.
Yes.
Because your opinion is your opinion.
Yes.
You're not going to change your opinion when you write about Mama Babasuwe today.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that you are a different person writing about Buhari tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Yes. But how do you keep people engaged? Because I had a friend who told me the other day, some years ago, said, Sam, I know what your view is. That's why I didn't read it. How do you keep people engaged? The person said he didn't read it because I think was uncomfortable with what my
what you're going to be. You like it.
So he was looking for an excuse not to read.
That's right.
He probably read it, but didn't want to admit to it.
But I don't think, though, that there are columnists who decide not to be predictable, in the sense that if you treat issues as just issues, regardless as who is involved, then you become unpredictable because what you're saying is what you hope to say to anybody else. So if I say a governor should arrive early in office, I'm hoping I will say that to whoever becomes governor, not because it's this particular person that is on seat. And that makes it so it is going to be more issue-driven and principle-guided rather than perhaps the factional dispute of the moment. So it really doesn't matter. And I also think, and this is a choice, we don't have to be that way, when people say to be independent of choice. I personally, for example, like to be known not to be affiliable to anybody or any parts in a way, and this is a bit of why somebody says, I know where you are, so I'm not going to read you. I think my readers think, we don't even know what he's going to say today. Where are you exactly?
Does that not make you a jellyfish?
Partly, yes, we're enjoyable jellyfish. You don't have to be strong, and who says we all have to be heroes and clear? It doesn't matter. I mean, I enjoy the fact that people say that, are you with us or against us? We don't even know where you stand on this matter.
But you have to stand. Let your ye be ye and your nay, nay.
Or let your killer be killer.
Yes, or kill. You want to kill.
If you want to kill, you kill. And that's what I do. So I am killer. I'm not in anybody's side or on anybody's side. It really doesn't matter.
The killer does not kill.
Well, depending on the situation, a killer might kill. The whole point is this, I think I have my views. If people agree with my view, then I embrace them. If they walk away from it, so be it. Which doesn't mean I'm always right, but it means those are my views, not endorsing anybody else.
Right. You spoke on you wrote about some sensitive issues, for instance, the Biafra matter, which a lot of persons it's still a matter of controversy, so to speak, especially bringing closure for certain persons, at the time. You said those who easily discard the spirit of Biafra are wrong and need to be corrected. And you also talk about we are all Nigerians, and there are those who said that we are all Nigerians, and the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable, should be dared to, go to talk about ethnicity in terms of politics.
Yes.
Let's speak to that, really.
What I think, so there's no doubt that the Nigerian state is an artificial construct, which doesn't make it anything bad. The EU, the USA, many countries are artificial constructs. We were first nations, ethnic nation, but we become a state of Nigeria. I think the problem we have is a leadership problem. I think the leaders of Nigeria, and this is something that goes beyond the leader of today, it's a generational issues. I think the leaders of Nigeria, they have failed in their ability to form a nation state. They have failed in the quest. They've made Nigeria, but we have Nigeria, but we're still looking for Nigerians. And therein lies the problem. When the unification of Italy was done in 1861, one of the first things that Cavu said is, now... Cavu is the Cavu is the right pronunciation. Yeah. Cavu. He says, ora abbiamo Italia, facciamo italiani. Now we have Italy, let's make Italians. It's the next step. And I think we miss that. We miss it in all ways.
At what point?
We miss it generally because you look at our leaders, for example, they get to power based on zoning, based on rotation, based on this. Then they get there, then they want to say, oh, let's now do Nigeria. It doesn't work. It's a fallacy to do that. And I also think that people struggle to feel that Nigerianness, but also people have their fault. And again, perhaps this is one unique thing about the Epistles, because it doesn't blame just leaders. It asks people to look at themselves as well. Because when people need a mechanic or a doctor, or they need a visa and they need an agent who's going to do for them, they don't prefer any ethnic group. They look for the best. But when it comes to politics, they're allowed to be maneuvered and manipulated.
I know that you also spoke about the Yoruba nation.
Yes.
I've been thinking about these issues for a while. It's still an idea I'm still engaging. We always take it for granted that the Yorubas were a nation before they came to Nigeria. The Igbos were a nation before they came to Nigeria. They didn't see themselves as nations before Nigeria came. If you go to the southeast today, the language is not that homogeneous. I've seen there's some Igbos listen to some music and say, I don't think I understand this, but maybe it's the other people belong to maybe this is from Enugu, this is what Enugu people, these are Enugu people speak, these are, we had that in Yoruba land. Absolutely. The Yoruba word was even given to Yorubas by non-Yorubas. Absolutely. And so on. So as you said, the whole thing is artificial. Absolutely. And then if everything is artificial, it all behoves the groups to decide how to make the artificial thing nice. After all, this is artificial
as well,
beautiful.
Yes, and you can improve it.
Yes. So what is artificial? Say nothing is natural. No, actually, nothing is natural. So once you are born and you start speaking, everything becomes man-made.
It is man-made, yes, sir. And I do believe, and I agree that nurture trumps nature. That in reality we can nurture things, we can make it happen. The problem we have, and this goes back to the spirit of Biafra, the problem we have is that when the present is not desirable or is not working or is not rewarding for the participants, there comes a desire to either nostalgic, to look back, or futuristic, to look forward, away from the present. Whereas
an
escape from the present, from today. And that's why Biafra, like the Yoruba thing, becomes a dream, a place of recourse.
You talk about Biafra.
Yes, and then there's Biafra as well, exactly. And this is the other side of it. In the middle of people feeling nostalgic or futuristic, then some people come as well to use people's yearning to exploit it for their own fame and fortune. And that is the misery of man.
That's the question I wanted you to interrogate there is that before you say that you want to fight for Biafra, why don't you fight for those who are exploiting it.
Yes.
Why don't you take the fight inward first? During the time of Jonathan, for instance,
Yes.
there was not 100-meter. In fact, they said that during Jonathan's period,
Didn't do anything.
they didn't do 100-meter road anywhere in Nigeria.
Yes.
That is a scandal.
Yes.
For the man who presided the richest time in Nigeria
history.
other than Gowon.
Yeah.
That we didn't have it. And a lot of the beneficiaries were from the southeast.
Yes.
Who gave a lot of positions, a lot of jobs to do, and
They didn't do it.
they did not hold those people to
To
task.
account.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
To task.
To task.
So why don't you cleanse your house first before you say you want to go? And then the question is, how do we interrogate the question of secession? How do you live when the Constitution does not even give any room
for
for
that.
such a
It
conversation?
was such a conversation. Well, two things there. Number one is accountability. Passion is great, but it blinds people because, you know, when we become passionate and when you do our people, your people, their people, people find it difficult to be logical because that way they're always looking at the criminal on the other side, not the one inward. And that's a problem to deal with. But let's be careful about it. I argue that one can be for or one can be against separation of Nigeria. If you're for it, you need to make a case, you need to make Nigeria work, and people will be attracted to it. If you're against it, you have the duty to persuade and peacefully push for it. As we said, it is man-made. Just because it is in the Constitution does not mean it is not disputable. I do not believe Nigeria is not negotiable. I think Nigeria is negotiable. We can look at it and say, this is the kind of Nigeria we want. I personally, for example, I want a Nigeria that is more decentralized. I want the regions to be recognized. I want Nigeria to know that we're made of nations. But then it doesn't mean we become enemies or we fight each other. It's just a different way of doing things. I believe that the federal government is too powerful in Nigeria. I believe that there's too much power concentrated in the hands of the government at the center. And I believe that the federating units, whichever way you want to look at it, should be more empowered.
Even the little powers these federating units have, they are exploited. Look, they give them 5 trillion naira as revealed in the newspaper today. The federating units are wasted. So what are we talking about? But then the issue of Nigeria not being negotiable, we all say all the time.
Yeah, well,
It's almost as if we are kidding. Everything is negotiable, but I cannot leave unless I fight.
yeah, fair.
That's what it means. So what are we negotiating? It's either I want in or I fight out.
But in fairness, there's a group of Nigerians, especially generational thing, those who fought the war, who actually believe that Nigeria is not negotiable. And you must respect them, even whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah.
Because they believe that, look, we put our blood on line for these things to happen. So you just don't come from anywhere because you can write or talk and tell them you're going to break it. They look at you and say, what are you talking about?
They don't even know. They don't know what went on during the Civil War.
Exactly.
They don't know people like us who didn't go to Civil War, but at midnight,
exactly.
we heard boom, and everybody was like
traumatized.
Oh, when I was going to have a haircut with my father, and then there was fear in Lagos here that there was going to be an invasion. Yeah. My father was running and holding me, and we're all running. But when I have that kind of trauma, you'll be talking about Civil War.
But I also think anybody who's rational will be against violence. I think the idea of thinking, let's fight. I mean, you know, what about rallies? I mean, about protests. Anybody who has something at stake, you know, in a rational way, you know violence is a very barbaric and last resort thing, you know, whether public or private violence. There should be no space for that in our lives. Man is a beast that needs to be tamed. There's actually, man is a beast. You're quoting, yes.
But when you wrote about the security issues, you said Nigeria is at war, writing to the president directly. But there are those who will tell you Nigeria as it stands is not at war. There are those who will debate that.
Well, I think, you see, the idea, and I want viewers and readers to take note of it, the idea that when something happens, the head of state goes on TV and say, this country is at war, America is at war, or Britain is at war, is a declaration. You can decide not to take cognizance that you're at war, and they'll walk over you totally. It's a stance to make, to say, given what is going on, we have decided that we're at war and we're going to deal with it. Right. And that part of the book, which you quote, is an invitation to the president to take cognizance that we're at war, because one, once you agree you're at war, it changes everything. Two, the mode of operation, the mode of engagement changes as well.
All right. We have run out of time, so we need to wrap up the conversation here now. But we must thank you, Director, Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies, Professor Anthony Kila, for your time on the program, and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Where's my copy?
You will get it. All the lights are available in bookshops.
All right.